Hey solos! Should you stay at the Caribbean Beach Resort if you were going to Disney by yourself? Well, solo spoiler, if you want some extra transportation options, especially to Hollywood Studios and to Epcot, and you're looking for a real chill vibe, then Caribbean Beach is the best resort for you. Hi everyone, it's Samantha. Olaf may not know who Samantha is, but now you do, and welcome to Solo Magic, the #1 podcast for solo travel to Disney World. #1 also might be only, but hey, I'm going to say #1 as long as I can. Welcome to August, everyone. August is my birthday month at the end of August. I mean, I've mentioned that probably in every episode, and I will continue to mention it leading up to my birthday as well. So welcome to August. In July, I covered the All-Star Hotels and the Pop Century, the value resorts, and I provided an overview, and I also talked about some pros and cons of staying there solo. This August, I'm going to be talking about the 4 different moderate resorts. The moderate resorts are my favorite tier of hotel. Again, I've never stayed at the deluxe resort, but I'm sure the moderate resorts are still better than them. I know they're not. It's okay. It's fine. Anyway, I'm focusing on the moderate resorts in August. I'm going to be providing an overview, and I'm going to be talking about the pros and cons of staying there solo. This week, I am talking about Caribbean Beach. Then I'm going to be talking about Riverside, French Quarter, and then Coronado. I've really loved all of your comments on social media about like leading up to the episodes and also telling me what you like about the different resorts, and it's been really cool to interact with you through this series. I hope it's the same with the moderate resorts, and if you want to get in touch with me, getting in touch with me on Instagram and Threads is the best way to do it. I'm also on Facebook and there's a blog. All the links are in the description below, so make sure you connect with me. It's really awesome. It helps to know how to craft these episodes as well when you are interacting with me, because then I know things to emphasize and things not to emphasize, etc. So anyway, it's really great to connect. As you probably know, you can listen to this on Apple, Spotify, and on YouTube. And on YouTube, you can make comments. Nobody is really listening to this on YouTube. Hi to those few of you who are. But there is that option to connect through YouTube as well. And I always keep an eye on whether or not the numbers are going up or if there's comments. But that's some weird kind of negative energy. Let's just focus on the podcast that we have talking about today, because I am focused on Caribbean Beach. I think that's all the preamble, so let's get into it. Okay. So there are 3.5 tiers of Disney hotels: value, moderate, deluxe, and then deluxe villas, which are really deluxe resorts, but are also part of the Disney Vacation Club. The value resorts are for an economical option for families and groups. And so if you are thinking about staying at a value resort, know that you're not going to get away from families and groups, because those hotels are designed for that. That's not to say you shouldn't stay at them, but it's to say that you should be aware that that is what you're getting with the value resorts. The moderate resorts are also designed for families, but not really in the same way. I would say that the deluxe resorts are definitely designed more for adults, adult money. It's if you're going to spend that much on a room, we want you to know that there's a couple different fancy bar and lounge options. The moderate resorts, though, are kind of that in-between space, and that's why I think it's a really great option for traveling solo, but also just adults traveling by themselves to Disney. Before I get into talking about the Caribbean Beach Moderate Resort, I want to talk about the 4 moderate resorts as a whole. So the 4 moderate resorts are Caribbean Beach, Port Orleans Riverside, Port Orleans French Quarter, and Coronado Springs. Caribbean Beach, Port Orleans Riverside, and Coronado Springs were designed to be essentially the same. So I'm just taking French Quarter out right now, and I just want to talk about those 3: Caribbean Beach, Riverside, and Coronado. Coronado has some changes from when it was originally designed. I'm not going to necessarily talk about those changes, but I just want to talk about the genesis of those 3 hotels. Just like the value resorts are kind of designed in a similar way, there are these big giant buildings that are 3 stories tall that have a lot of decorations on the outside, and the kind of footprint of the hotel is these different neighborhoods, whether that is through a particular musical instrument or a sport or a decade of the 20th century. The moderate resorts are also designed very similar. They are designed according to a particular geographic location. So Caribbean Beach, the geographic location is the Caribbean. Port Orleans Riverside, the geographic location is like southern United States, like Louisiana. Coronado Springs is like pre/post contact, like southwestern United States/Mexico. So the main theming of these moderate resorts are these geographic locations. They're all designed essentially the same. They're designed as like a big circle around a small body of water, like a small little lake. I'm going to say lake, even though it's not like really a lake. Around that body of water, there's a series of buildings, a series of like your hotel buildings, your hotel room buildings, and they are like designed and organized as these little neighborhoods. The neighborhoods are structurally set up the same, but they're different theming around it, so it's like you're actually going through these different neighborhoods. Each one of these little neighborhoods has their block of rooms. It's a series of individual buildings that are either 2 or 3 stories tall. Like the value resorts, they also don't have balconies. The corridors are on the outside of the rooms, but unlike the value resorts, the theming around them is much different. So it definitely doesn't feel quite as motel style, even though it is kind of a motel style in that there are no indoor corridors. Each one of the neighborhoods, these like little blocks of buildings, has its own quiet pool as well. And that's also, not only do I talk about my birthday a lot on this podcast, I also talk about my love for quiet pools a lot. So there you go. That's why I like the moderate resorts, because they have all these little quiet pools. And these ones are actually very quiet. Unlike the value resorts that are just like, the quiet pools are really just like another pool. The quiet pools are very much the quiet pools. They are kind of hidden. There are no lifeguards, just so you know. They're kind of hidden. They are themed around the different neighborhood, which I'll talk about a little bit later. Actually, by later, I mean in another episode, not necessarily this episode, and I'll tell you why in a bit. And those quiet pools also have things like the laundry facilities. The quiet pools, though, don't have any food and drink options, so, you know, that's a thing you need to think about, except for one case, which I will talk about in this episode. But that's the general structure. There's a block of rooms in a quote-unquote neighborhood. There's a quiet pool in there, and that neighborhood is usually themed differently than the neighborhoods beside it. Like I said, the moderate resorts are set up like as a circle with a lake in the middle. There is a lobby that has a quick service restaurant. There is also, at all the moderate resorts, an additional food option that's more of a sit-down option. And there's also a bar/lounge that is a lot more comfortable as a kind of sit-down bar lounge than the pool bar, for example, at the value resorts. There is also, though, a pool bar. There is also an option for a pool bar at the moderate resorts as well. So you do have a couple of those options. There is a big pool at the moderate resorts. They are in kind of different locations. All of the resorts, they all have a water slide, which is pretty cool. I would recommend going down the water slide solos. Don't worry that you're an adult by yourself. I've done it multiple times. When I was at French Quarter, for example, I took a video on me going down the water slide. I also just went down the water slide multiple times because why not? And one time I get down to the bottom of the water slide and there's a lifeguard there and she's like, "I like your bathing suit." And so I was like, "Thank you." No one was like, "Hey, you're a loser. You're by yourself and you're going down a water slide as an adult." Nobody says that. Nobody says that. It does not matter. Do you, bibbidi bobbidi boo, use those water slides. And as the moderate resorts, they all have water slides. So that is the general setup of the moderate resorts. They're all kind of like a big circle around a small lake. There are a series of different neighborhoods that all have their own little quiet pool, and that's where your rooms are. There's a main building that has a lobby and a gift store and all that stuff. Also a quick service restaurant, and all the moderate resorts have one additional kind of sit-down restaurant for adults, really, which is great. I mean, not to say kids aren't there. Obviously, kids are there, but it's definitely more of an adult option for eating if that is what you're into. Now, I said that there were 4 moderate resorts, but that when I'm talking about this structure, I didn't talk about French Quarter. And that's because French Quarter was kind of built a little bit differently. French Quarter and Port Orleans French Quarter and Port Orleans Riverside are right next to each other. They're kind of like sister resorts. And I've always kind of understood them as kind of the same resort, but French Quarter just is an annex that does its own thing. So it was kind of designed a little bit differently. I will talk about that more in the French Quarter episode, so don't worry about that. We're just focusing on Caribbean Beach today. I also said that Coronado is a little bit different, and and that's because it also, along with everything I just said, it also has a big giant tower with rooms. And so I will talk about that in the episode on Coronado. And why my little Virgo heart, who likes a lot of order, finds the fact of that tower kind of frustrating. But that is a totally different story, and you can sit tight because that will be in 3 weeks or 4 weeks or whatever. Let's talk about Caribbean Beach. Now, before I stayed at Caribbean Beach, I saw people say they didn't like it and like were kind of like really, what's the word I'm looking for? Like very adamant about the fact that they don't like it. And I didn't really get that because when I stayed there, I loved it. And in fact, until a few months ago, it was my favorite moderate resort. But I think the reason why people don't like it is that it is quite big. And if you have kids and you're schlepping and you're doing and all this stuff, it might seem like a lot or even too much. So I'm going to put that aside, and I'm just thinking of you solos, just you walking, or maybe you're like rolling if you have a mobility device. But I'm just thinking of you kind of moving through the resort. I'm not thinking about whether it's good or bad for families. So the layout of Caribbean Beach. I've already talked about the kind of layout of the general moderate resorts. The Caribbean Beach Resort has 5 different quote unquote neighborhoods. And these neighborhoods are named after different Caribbean islands like Jamaica or Aruba or Barbados. Now, at the Coronado and at Riverside, all the neighborhoods do look very different. At Caribbean Beach, the neighborhoods don't really look different at all. It's like they're like, oh, don't worry, like Barbados and Jamaica, they're basically like samesies, don't worry. They're not. All the different countries in the Caribbean have very long and rich histories and cultures that should have been represented more at Caribbean Beach. But again, we're going to take that and put it aside into a different piece of our brains. Instead, the thing that really differentiates the different neighborhoods is the color of the buildings. So there's a block of buildings that are yellow, there's a block of buildings that are blue, there's a block of buildings that are pink, etc. So there really isn't any difference between the different neighborhoods. All the neighborhoods, like I said, have a small quiet pool. They have a laundry facility. They also have a small beach with hammocks right outside their like quote unquote neighborhood where you can like sit and look at the lake. Now, none of these things are exclusive to the neighborhood. If you are in the Jamaica neighborhood, you can walk over to Barbados and like lay on their hammocks. Like that's not a big deal. But I'm just saying, like, if you're like, oh, I want to be close to the hammocks, you're going to be close to the hammock. You're always going to be close to the hammock. The resort was designed that way. The buildings are 2 to 3 stories with the corridors on the outside. Again, no balconies. And the rooms inside, unlike the Valley resorts, all of the rooms at the moderate resort are now themed and decorated a little bit more in line with the theme of the hotel. So that you're going to see like Caribbean touches in the Caribbean rooms. Now, I haven't been there since they have renovated the rooms. When I was there last, before they renovated the rooms like a year ago, nothing really like stood out to me as particularly quote unquote Caribbean other than just like the feel. But I think the rooms now that have been renovated have things like Little Mermaid and, you know, like little touches like that brings a little bit more Disney to the theme. Now, this isn't a criticism either way. The rooms are very comfortable and they're really nicely decorated. So just know though that you might be getting a room that has like Little Mermaid, you know, like hidden here and there, or you might get one of the rooms that are just like regular Caribbean. One of the reasons why they did the renovation is because there used to be a huge block of rooms that were just pirate themed. So at Port Orleans Riverside, there's a whole block of rooms that are princess themed. I've never stayed there. I really want to. But they tried to do the same thing at Caribbean Beach by doing a whole block of rooms that were pirate themed. They were a little bit more money. They were a lot more immersive. However, I don't think they were as successful. Well, they definitely weren't as successful as the princess rooms. Otherwise, they wouldn't have gotten rid of them. So I'm not quite sure if they've only renovated those rooms or if all of the rooms are going to need the same renovation. Because when I was there last year, I certainly didn't walk into the room and think, ooh, this could be renovated. Not at all. I was like, oh, it's so nice. It's kind of adult-ish because it's not like in your face, like kid Disney stuff. So, you know, there's that. You can think about that as well. In the lobby building, there is a gift store. There's obviously the lobby that you can talk to the cast members if you need some help. There's also a quick service restaurant. The quick service restaurant has like the normal stuff. However, they also have different menu options that are more in line with like Caribbean flavors. So I've had really good like jerk chicken, X, Y, and Z, or like a yuca bowl, like it's I've had some really interesting food there. It's a little less food court style than the value resorts, in that if you mobile order or you order at the front, the food will be called for you so you can go and pick up the food. You're not going to pick up the food, have a tray, and then you pay. You pay first, order, and then they'll call your name. So, you're not walking around with your food. I guess it's a little bit more sophisticated. The quick service restaurant, like where you eat, is definitely not quite as like open and food court style as the value resorts. They're definitely like some more kind of decorations or organized a little bit differently. So I don't know, it just feels a little different. It's still like loud for sure, but it's quote unquote a little bit more sophisticated. There's also an outdoor eating space, and that's where I usually eat. And you can look out to the lake. You can also be able to see the Skyliner, and there's a small little marina. I've never actually seen anyone like interact in that marina. I don't know if it's been like officially reopened since COVID, but anyway, there's a little marina there that you can also like look at the small little pontoon boats or whatever that they have. Along with that quick service restaurant, which is really great. In fact, actually for breakfast, one of the really nice options they have. See, at value resorts for breakfast, you can get like bacon and eggs and Mickey waffles, and like, great, wonderful. But, that's also kind of like greasy and heavy, and maybe that's not the breakfast that you want. The moderate and deluxe resorts, though, have like different breakfast options. So the breakfast option that they have at Caribbean Beach that's a little bit different is an avocado toast that has pickled onions and tomatoes, and it's really, really delicious. And I'll get like scrambled eggs beside it, and yeah, that can last me a lot longer than Mickey waffles. Like, whenever I love Mickey waffles, it's just like everybody does, but I do find they make me extraordinarily thirsty. So I actually much rather prefer an avocado toast with some eggs, and then I can like indulge all my Mickey shaped foods when I'm at the parks. Just like I said, all the moderate resorts have an additional food option. And the additional food option at Caribbean Beach is a restaurant called Sebastian's Bistro, which is a sit-down table service restaurant, but it is family style, which means like they bring out platters of food and you're supposed to share it with your family. The problem with a family style restaurant is if you aren't eating with a family and like a lot of food goes to waste. Like, here's the thing, solos, I don't want to tell you in this podcast what to do or not do. I just want to tell you my experience and like how I made those decisions to do whatever I'm doing, so that you too can like think about the decision making that would go into your solo trip. So I don't just want to be like, don't do that, because that might actually be the best thing for you. But for family style restaurants, don't do that. Like, family style restaurants are just like not a good option for solos. Buffets are completely different. I don't know, for a buffet, I can go up and just eat however much I want. That's great. But something about a family style restaurant just feels so wasteful. And I talked to Matt Richardson, who also is a solo traveler to Disney, and he was saying too, like, it just felt like a lot of food waste. I ate at Sebastian's Bistro one of my last trips. I would definitely try it again with other people, obviously. I did find it a little bit salty, and I didn't think the temperature on the food was really great. Like, some of the stuff was like lukewarm, but I would try it again. As a solo though, it was kind of a waste of my money. I should have really just gone and gotten like another avocado toast. I mean, it wasn't on sale then because it was dinner time and not breakfast time, but I really should have just gotten like something at the quick service restaurant. So you do have that option at Caribbean Beach, but it might not be like a great option. There is also a pool bar. It is in between Sebastian's Bistro and the pool. It's called Banana Cabana, and it has like some really kind of nice, I'm trying to think of the name of the seats, like kind of club chairs, but like outdoor club chairs. They have tables, you can get some food there. I've never eaten there, but I have like hung out there and took a business call or two. And it seems like a really cool, chill vibe. Like if you're into like hanging out at bars and like connecting with people, like it seems like a kind of a cool place to do that, really chill. And you probably aren't going to be talking to a sommelier there. Like, you're not talking to a sommelier at the value resorts, but you definitely will have a couple more like cocktail options there, which is pretty cool. Now, Caribbean Beach has one extra food option that's kind of hidden. So while the majority of the resort is like a circle around a lake, there is a part of the resort, one additional neighborhood, that's like kind of a tail. That's kind of like off the beaten path. And I think if you are like staying there, it might feel very far from like the main building or the main pool, for example. And I guess that's why they have a small little snack bar there as well. So in the Trinidad neighborhood, they have your little neighborhood, they have your quiet pool, but they also have a small snack bar that has like kind of basics. They do have breakfast. They also just have like burgers and all that stuff. They have a fountain drink station. So if you want to refill your mug or whatever, you can get it there. They have coffee, etc., etc. So that is a really good option if you're staying at that neighborhood that's a little bit further out of the way to just kind of grab something to eat. Also, if you go and swim in that pool, you have food very close by. And really, like, none of the quiet pools across the moderate resorts have the same type of like very quick food right by it. So that's a real benefit because you can just like hang out at that quiet pool all day because you can go eat, get something to drink, come back to the pool, back and forth, back and forth. That does mean that it's definitely the busier of the quiet pools, but it doesn't mean it is so busy that you feel like that you can't really relax there. I will say too, the main pool at Caribbean Beach, I've never actually swam in. I find it a little small, and with all the kids in it, it does just feel like, I don't know, for me as an adult by myself, it feels like I'm kind of not taking up space, but like I'm kind of in their space. Like there isn't just space for me to kind of like lean and do my own thing. So I never actually swam at that main pool, but I mean, you certainly can, obviously. I have gone to that pool because I've done like sometimes they have like these pool activities for an additional cost. And one of them was like making a tie-dye shirt. And I went and I did the tie-dye by the pool and I talked to the cast members there and it was totally cool and totally chill. But I always just found that pool like feeling very small, that it just would feel kind of awkward for me to hang out. So I have all of the different quiet pools at my disposal. So when I talked about the value resorts, I said there was one place that you went and you got the buses. The buses picked you up there and the buses dropped you off there. Now at Caribbean Beach, they also have bus service to Magic Kingdom, Animal Kingdom, Disney Springs, and the water parks. But rather than go to one place to get these buses, each one of the neighborhoods has its own bus stop. And that bus stop is shaded, it has seating, and it is a much more comfortable place to wait for the bus to get to Animal Kingdom or Magic Kingdom or whatever than it is at the value resorts. Like, you might still have to wait a while because the buses are the buses and they take a while sometimes, but it is so much more comfortable to wait in these little areas than it is at the value resorts. At the end of the night, too, you would get dropped off at the station that's closest to your room. Sometimes it's not actually your own neighborhood, it might be the neighborhood next door. So always look at the map to be able to see kind of like where your room is in relationship to the different bus stations, because it will definitely save you a huge walk. If you can save the walk, save the walk. Those buses, too, will go around and do all of the different stops, including a stop at the main building for sure. So one of the things about that bus system then is that it does take a little bit longer to like be picked up or be dropped off in comparison to the value resorts, for example, because it has to do that loop around the whole hotel. Personally, I would rather sit in the shade and wait for the bus than to like only have one stop for pickup or drop off. That's me. But I mean, it is frustrating at the end of the night when you're like, oh my God, there's 3 more neighborhoods left or whatever. But anyway, there's that. Now, if you are a woman or a femme person who is traveling alone, you might be kind of worried at the end of the night if you get dropped off at one of the bus stops and you're like in the middle of a parking lot and maybe that's scary. Look, I have never felt any sort of security issues at Disney ever. Everything like the parking lot that you walk through before you get to the block of rooms in the neighborhood is well lit. There's security patrolling. I'm sure there's way more cameras than we can see. So I don't know. Personally, I've never been concerned about that. And as I've said on this episode a few times, like my personal safety as a woman is something I think about all the time. But at Disney, I really don't think about it. So it's not like I'm kind of oblivious to safety concerns. The fact is, I'm just like not feeling that at Disney. So I wouldn't be super concerned if you are getting off the bus at the end of the night as a solo person and you're walking to your room. I really don't think that there's an additional security concern. However, if you are worried, you can always get off at the lobby that's a little bit more brighter and the bell service is there and cast members are there, and then walk to your room. I mean, to be honest, that's just a longer walk and that might actually increase the safety concerns, but do what is most comfortable for you. If I were you, what I do in that situation is I just get off the closest to my room, and I don't worry about walking through the dark parking lot at night. The only thing I worry about actually is because usually my feet hurt so much, I really just want to pop my shoes off and like walk in the grass, but now I have to walk on asphalt and I'm worried about my feet. So anyway, you do you. I wouldn't really think about it as a security concern. Although I will just say one more thing. I know that like telling people that you're there solo might seem like it is a security concern. But when I get on and off the buses, I always really like to greet the bus driver and then thank the bus driver, especially when I'm solo. And one of the reasons for that is I want the driver to like remember me or think of me. I want there to be that connection between like the driver and the memory and me, so that if there is something that happened, oh God forbid, I'm putting some shitty things into the universe. Sorry about my language, but I'm putting some bad things in the universe, that the driver can be like, oh yeah, I saw that person. This is when they got off. This is blah, 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 blah. And a couple times actually, maybe not a couple. Yeah. A couple times actually, there was like a problem with one of the buses, and it was just like me and the driver at like 11:30 at night. And he was like just dropping me off. And he was like, is there a place closer to your room you want me to drop you off? I'm not going to pick up any other people. And I think he like waited to make sure that I was across the parking lot before he pulled away too. So again, there's that extra level of like safety when you are connecting with people and highlighting that, you know, you're all part of a community together and safety is a priority for you all. All right, but let's not talk about bad things. Okay, so I said that these different bus depots are really great for you to get the buses to Magic Kingdom, Animal Kingdom, Disney Springs, and the water parks. But what about Epcot and Hollywood Studios, you ask? Oh, why is the Caribbean Beach such a great resort? Because it has the Skyliner, everyone. So it has a Skyliner. It has the aerial gondola system that will take you to Hollywood Studios or to take you to Epcot. At Pop Century or Art of Animation, you need to go to the Caribbean Beach in order to get on the Skyliners to one of those two parks. But when you get on at the Caribbean Beach, you're just going right to the park. There isn't an extra stop. It is so great. You can just walk right on over to the Skyliner, hop on, and then be at Hollywood Studios literally in 5 to 10 minutes. I'm not kidding. Once you get to the Caribbean Beach Skyliner, you can just, especially in the middle of the day when there's no line, you're at Hollywood Studios in 5 to 10 minutes. It's amazing. And the Skyliner station also has a little Joffrey's outside of it, which is a Joffrey's that you at the Caribbean Beach can certainly use. So if you are staying close to the Skyliner, it might just be quicker for you to go to that Joffrey's and get some coffee in the morning or in the middle of the afternoon or whatever than it is to go all the way to the main building. So having that is just really awesome. And that little kind of neighborhood that I said is like a tail that's not very close to the rest of the hotel or whatever, it's actually pretty close to the Skyliner. So you can get to the Skyliner with like a 5-10 minute walk. You can see the Skyliner from that little snack bar I talked about. So I think if you're just there to do the Skyliner, like that is actually a pretty cool neighborhood, the Trinidad neighborhood to like sit in and hang out. It's really awesome. But if you aren't close to that Skyliner station, there's also another Skyliner station. So at the very end of Caribbean Beach, totally opposite from where that little Trinidad neighborhood is, opposite from where the Skyliner is, there is the Riviera Resort, which is a deluxe villa resort. It's part of the DVC, Disney Vacation Club. It is, again, one of the deluxe resorts. It is the deluxe resort I spent the most time in, but it's actually not my favorite. That's a totally different conversation. But it's the deluxe resort I've spent the most time in because I've stayed at Caribbean Beach or Pop Century and just gone and like ate there, went and got coffee there, shopped there, hung out there because you were so close. And the Riviera Resort has its own Skyliner station. So you can go to that Skyliner station and head right to Epcot. You don't need to go to like the main depot station. You can just like go to the station that's a little bit closer. For Hollywood Studios, there's only like the one station that you get to. But if you're staying at one of the kind of farther end neighborhoods, you are closer to the Skyliner station at the Riviera, and you're closer to the Riviera to like get breakfast. So one of the reasons why I like don't actually go to the Caribbean Beach for breakfast anymore is because the Riviera has my favorite breakfast, which are these like lemon pancakes with a ricotta cheese on top. Oh my God, it's so good. I get it with strawberries. Oh, it's my favorite. It's my favorite breakfast. So when you're staying at the Caribbean Beach, you can make use of that Skyliner station, but also make use of the Riviera Resort. So that is the general overview of Caribbean Beach. A big circle with a little bit of a tail. It has a quick service restaurant, a snack bar, a sit-down restaurant that's family style. It also has connection to the Skyliner, which gets you to Hollywood Studios and Epcot very fast. Last week I did a whole episode just on transportation, park transportation, so definitely listen to that for more details about the Skyliner. It is a large resort. It is spread out, but all of those neighborhoods has its own type of thing, like a pool, like laundries, etc. And the rooms are very nice, very comfortable, and definitely like not too kiddie if that is something that you're into. So pros and cons. Let's actually start with cons. The cons are that it is quite big, and you might think that it is too big for you being by yourself. Again, maybe there's some mobility issues, or maybe it's like, oh God, I do not need to walk at the end of the day. So it might feel spread out for you. The additional food option along with a quick service restaurant isn't actually great for solos. It is family style. While I would try the food again, it wasn't great when I went there, but I would definitely try it again. It isn't really worth it to do a family style if you are solo. Another con is that it's not very immersive. It's not quite as immersive as the other value resorts, and it's certainly not as fun as the immersion that you get at the value resorts. And because of the way that the buses are set up, although this is not exclusive to Caribbean Beach, the way the bus is set up, it can feel a little bit long at the end of the day, for example, when you were getting dropped off because it has to go to all the different stops. Okay, but here are the pros. I think it is definitely the most chill of the resorts, of the moderate resorts. Like if you just want to go and like do your own thing, you want a nice room, but you don't really want anything like fancy, or I don't know, there's just like, I never see a lot of other people at the Caribbean Beach Resort. It's usually sold out because of the Skyliner, but the fact is I just don't think of it as like a very busy hotel. And so if you just kind of want to like be by yourself and do your own thing and have a really chill hotel, Caribbean Beach is really excellent. Another pro is its proximity to the Skyliner, not just one stop, but 2 stops. And that is really invaluable. To be able to get to Hollywood Studios quickly, to be able to get to the Riviera or to Epcot quickly is really great. And especially if you were going to Disney for something like the Epcot Food and Wine Festival, or you're going for a particular concert, the Skyliner lets you out between France and England. So you don't need to walk through all of Epcot to get to World Showcase. And that's really important. That's a lot of walking that you save. And so to be able to be right at Caribbean Beach and get right to Epcot so quickly, gosh, it's amazing. Another pro about Caribbean Beach is that you're at a moderate resort, but you are steps away from a deluxe resort, which means you can get some higher end food options, and you are a Skyliner away from a value resort, Pop and Art of Animation. If you wanted to just like, I don't know, just go check out Art of Animation or Pop Century. Every time I've stayed at Caribbean Beach, I was like, no, let's just take the Skyliner over to Pop and just like walk around. Yeah, so I don't know, it's kind of nice to like literally be in the middle of all of the different resort options. Another pro, I know I'm about to say this. Quiet pools. Like I said, it's such a chill resort, and you have so many places at the Caribbean beach to chill. And as a solo person, I really like that as an option. There are times where I've stayed at Caribbean Beach and it's January in Toronto. It is cold, it is gray. We know we have months ahead of us for winter. And I'm staying at the Caribbean Beach Resort for a couple days, and like literally my whole soul fills full of sunshine. And I don't just want to hustle to the park. What I really want to do is just like lay in a hammock, get some sun, eat something delicious, maybe do a little swim, and then mosey onto the park when I'm ready for it. And you can do that at the Caribbean Beach. They have all these little tiny beaches. You can't like swim in the lake or anything, but they have all these little beaches with sand that have hammocks that you can just relax on. There's also this tiny island just outside the main like lobby pool area that has some really cool like Muskoka chairs. Although I guess you don't call them Muskoka chairs in the States. Adirondack chairs, I think maybe for some of you. They have some really like nice little hidden places that you can go and sit and read a book. Again, there's some hammocks there. It is just so like calming to sit on the beach and like watch the Skyliner. Like it's so nice. And the beach that's around the Barbados neighborhood, maybe the Trinidad neighborhood too, you can actually see the fireworks from Epcot, which is again kind of a nice perk. So I think the pros of Caribbean is really found in like the chillness and the fact that it has the Skyliner. Like those two qualities I think are really great. But if you don't want a resort that's chill, or if you want a resort that has a little bit more texture to its chill, does that make sense? Do you get that? If you want a resort that has a little bit more texture to its chill, then Port Orleans Riverside is actually a better option, and that's what I'm going to be talking about next week. But I would say that like there isn't anything like extra at the Caribbean Beach other than the chillness and the Skyliner. But there isn't a lot of, again, like kind of texture to its immersion. And that is why it has become my second, maybe / third favorite moderate resort because of that. But the fact that it's chill and it's on the Skyliner is always one of my like main things. I've said in one of the very, very first episodes I recorded about like the lay of the world, the lay of the land, all the different hotel categories, that you should choose a hotel based on price and vibes. And I think that's really, really the case with Caribbean Beach. Like you should take a feel of like, if this is the type of vibe that you want, then this is the type of vibe that you're going to get. And, just a reminder that you can always go and look at these hotels without staying at the hotels. So if you're already going to Disney, whether it's solo or with somebody else, feel free to take the Skyliner over to Caribbean Beach and just like see if it's vibes that you're into. But I certainly like the vibes. But yeah, I think I like the vibes the most when it is a Canadian winter. I think that's when I love the vibes the most. All right, I think that's it. Just like thinking about my trips to Caribbean and always just like how really wonderful they were, like how calming they were, and just how much like really nice thinking I've done in the quiet pools, and how I really feel like Caribbean Beach is like one of my home resorts. Like, with the Disney Vacation, well, maybe you don't know, but with the Disney Vacation Club or any kind of timeshare, you usually have a home resort, and then you can still use your points or your allocations or whatever to stay at other places. I always feel like the Caribbean Beach is my home resort. I feel very like comfortable and at home there, even if I don't stay there the most. So anyway, next week I'm going to talk about Port Orleans Riverside, and then I'll talk about Port Orleans French Quarter and then Coronado. Have you stayed at Caribbean Beach? Do you like it? Is it your preferred choice for solo or adult travel to Disney World? Let me know on Instagram, let me know on Threads, let me know on YouTube, and I will talk to you next week, and we can have the whole conversation again about Port Orleans Riverside. Until then, bye! Hey Solos, it's Samantha. I hope you like this episode and all the episodes of Disney Solo Magic, the podcast about the magic of going to Disney World solo. Just a reminder to subscribe, to rate, review, to comment, to share, so that other people can learn about the magic of going to Disney World solo. Also, connect with me on social media. You can find me on Instagram, on Threads, on Facebook, and on the blog disneysolomagic.blogspot.com. On Instagram, I am Disney_solo_magic_podcast, as well as on Threads, Disney_solo_magic_podcast. And on Facebook, it's Disney Solo Magic. Again, the blog address is disneysolomagic.blogspot.com. Until next week, bye!